pierre.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to The Fringe. I have tried my best to stay out of the whole Palestine-Israel conflict, and I've often said that when it comes to where I stand on my views of the subject, that it's Canada first. I think we need to worry about the problems we have going on in Canada, and it doesn't mean I don't, disagree that what's happening on the other side of the world is not terrible, that I don't pray and hope for the safety of children, women, and families to be safe from any kind of persecution or violence. But what it mostly says is that, hey, we have a lot of things going on here right now. And with the overwhelming protests that are going on in our country right now, telling us to pay attention to other things going on in the world, I just feel that there's a lot of things we need to get checked off of our to-do list as a country before we focus on other problems around the world. That being said, I wanted to shed light on an incident that has gone on this last week in politics and with another independent media crew, independent media channel, an outlet. A post came across the other day that I seen coming from this Mohammed, whatever. Sorry, I can't pronounce the last name. Up to $25,000 reward. It has been 2 days since the clear incitement of hate occurred on Toronto streets. Today, I am offering a reward of up to $25,000 for information that leads to the arrest of the individuals who paid for, designed, or in any way facilitated this hateful campaign. Please call Toronto Police as soon as you can today. Our politicians and police leaders have demonstrated a complete disregard for the incitement of hate towards our community. Our community is already dealing with Netanyahu and IDF unalivings in Palestine. Again, bringing other countries' politics into it. We won't stand for this nonsense here in Toronto. Well, I hate to break it to these people, but we do have something in this country called freedom of speech. This is Canada. This is not Palestine. And while, again, I'm not saying that your concerns for your country aren't important or valid, but the overwhelming uprising, we'll say, of protests going on amid the country right now are completely out of whack, especially when you talk about the police needing to get involved, saying that it's disregard for incitement of hate. You have, and we've shown videos of Toronto University blocking people from accessing the university grounds, especially a man of Jewish descent, saying, you're not allowed to cross here. This is our space. This is our zone in order to preach for a free Palestine. Again, I'm not picking sides in this matter. I'm just saying that the problem here today is being told that one form of speech is acceptable while another on another position is unacceptable and should be punished by law. I find it rich coming from a place like Toronto, where they allow people to walk naked in the streets in front of children during such festivals like Pride, and saying that, hey, they can get away with that because, well, this is just that time of year and we're going to put up with it. But what's more important here, you can tell here from this van, and I'm just going to mute the content because, again, I don't know if there's anything copywritten on here, but of course he tweeted out beforehand, hey, Toronto Police, care to comment? And of course, you see the truck, it's got some televisions or screens on it displaying messages. We all know where this truck came from, guys. We've seen this truck out on the road before. Again, if you follow other outlets on social media, you know darn well whose truck this is, showing, is this Iraq? Is this the way of the world now? Is this what we're getting used to? Now, again, some fair questions, because with the demonstrations that are going on again in cities, we've seen flags being burned. We've seen brandishing of questionable weapons that are being declared as items of faith that are given exemptions in Canada. People's safety has been commented on multiple times. I have shown video on this channel of Palestinian protesters telling police they will put them 6 feet deep if they come near them without any repercussions or arrests being made. What's more important now, you see the unstoppable juggernaut of government-paid shilled prostitutes coming out with their titled video, Rebel News owns the van being probed by Toronto police. Now I'm going to play this clip for you guys. I want you to take a good listen here. because what they discuss in this video is very alarming. I'm gonna have to break in at certain points to give my commentary just because of fair use, but let's take a look at what. Of course, they also pick a person of diversity and color to propagate this story because, well, they
We have an
cynical or unreasonable. Let's continue.
update tonight on a hate crimes investigation in Toronto. A right-wing media outlet says it owns the advertising truck displaying what is described as an anti-Muslim message.
First off, I want to chime into her message right there. A far right media outlet owns the van of what's going on. Keep in mind, this is a government paid news outlet propagating this indoctrination, this propaganda, saying that, hey, these guys are far right. They're terrible. They own this van, and it's a hate crime. This is a hate crime, ladies and gentlemen. People can flood the streets and burn flags and threaten people. That's okay. But if you've got a van with some TV screens on it, sharing freedom of speech, well, that's a hate crime. Let's continue.
CTV's John Woodward tonight with a surprising turn of events.
The van appears to be driving on University Avenue in Toronto next to Ontario's legislature. It's showing pictures of Muslims in prayer and asking, is this Yemen? Is this Syria? Is this Iraq? Followed by the words, "Wake up, Canada, you are under siege." A message.
Now, I understand the meaning of this. Again, when we get into what's happening with university campuses, and again, they show that in this video, when we're seeing the protests that are out in the streets, when we're seeing the millions of migrants coming over. In fact, the Trudeau government announcing over 10,000 families are going to be brought over from Palestine as asylum seekers, and that we're just supposed to unvet and bring them into the country, no questions asked. I mean, yeah, I have to question at some point, is this Canada anymore? And that's in fact what's being asked on this truck.
Panned by Muslim groups, police vowed to investigate it, and Toronto's mayor said it was deeply worrisome.
I've asked other levels of government to join me in condemning this very hateful message.
Again, Olivia Chow coming out, again, Toronto's installed mayor, coming out to say, hey, condemn this. The police should be investigating this. I don't see anybody condemning or investigating, again, naked people walking through the streets of Toronto. In fact, we've seen Olivia Chow dancing alongside them. We've seen multiple protests going on in the middle of Toronto's main square. We've seen people be arrested for questioning what's happening at different protests, but never the protesters, because that's not politically correct. That's the issue I have here with this, is that I really don't care who's right or who's wrong. I really don't care who's saying what or who stands on which side of the fence here. What I'm talking about is that it has to be equal. If you're going to allow one side to say something, you have to allow the other, or else you have to tell both it's unacceptable. It can't be one or the other. Let's continue.
I've got some breaking news.
By mid-afternoon, Ezra Levant of the right-wing media organization Rebel News admitted the truck was his.
It's called free speech. You can look it up in our Charter of Rights.
The messaging, he said, from a group called Canadians Opposed to the Occupation of Our Streets and Campuses, a nod to protests, including the encampment at the University of Toronto. A group by that name didn't seem to have an online footprint.
Now you'll notice there the encampment on the university. Let's go back to that picture. This again, they called it. I believe it was this encampment that they called Little Palestine, where they had orange fences around the entire park, telling people they could not come in there unless they were agreeing with their cause. They were stopping people from entering public land. Now, I don't know about you guys. Again, in Calgary, we have seen the police actually shut down these protests and remove them from university properties because. Is this unsightly? Is this what Canada is? Is this what we're going to do? Again, calling this van a hate crime, but allowing occupation in a public square. And a lot of people say, well, universities are private. They're funded by the government. They're given grants. They're given other, as far as I'm concerned, taxpayer money goes towards that. That makes it public space. There's no sign that says you're not allowed to walk on university ground. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say here.
Have an online footprint. Barbara Perry of the Center for Hate, Bias, and Extremism said the messaging seemed inspired by an anti-immigration conspiracy theory and said it's arguable that the truck's messaging could have broken Canadian law against incitement to hatred.
I think it was that last piece, "We are under siege," that really tipped it for me. I mean, that is really a blatant indication or suggestion that we're under attack, that we are under threat from Muslims specifically.
So I want to interject on that claim because, again, the fact that she is coming from what was the title she's been given here? The Center for Hate and Progressive. Here it is, Center for Hate, Bias, and Extremism. Notice she's got her little colored flag here in the background. She looks like everything offends her, from people breathing oxygen to existing in public. Now, I'm not going to pass too much judgment, but it seems weird that somebody is paid to operate somewhere called the Center for Hate, Bias, and Extremism, but saying, well, it's about being under siege. It's about saying that we are somehow being threatened. Well, yes, we are being threatened. Again, the streets have been overrun with these people. We've seen police threatening to make arrests if you're walking around while they're praying in the middle of downtown streets. This is Canada. And that's the one thing that seems to be forgotten. Now, again, I always try to compare to Canadian protests that when you look at things like the Freedom Convoy, where police weren't arresting anybody for getting in the way of truckers. Police weren't arresting anybody for trying to move their way onto Parliament Hill. In fact, truckers did not block anybody from accessing government services throughout their protest of the Freedom Convoy in downtown Ottawa on Wellington Street or surrounding streets, what they call the Red Zone, while that protest was going on. So again, I just find it funny that when the shoe is on the other foot here, that all of these organizations say, well, if you don't believe what we believe, you're the enemy. You'll notice again, they mention far right for Rebel News multiple times. Now, while Rebel typically does report a right-wing perspective, labeling them as far right is what's used to label them as extremists. That's not the case here.
Specifically,
the truck's message came at a time hate crimes are rising fast as Israel's war in Gaza prompts division in Canada. Toronto businessman Mohammed Faki had offered a $25,000 reward for information leading to who was behind the truck, something Levant called a bounty.
I've hired a lawyer, and we're obviously going to fight, because this is still Canada, not Gaza.
Levant said in order to pay those legal fees and avoid 2 years in jail, he's going to raise money from his supporters.
In order to avoid fees and raise to prevent him from going to jail for 2 years. Jail for speaking his mind. Now, of course, we saw the offer where I showed the tweet before saying that they would offer the $25,000. Here's Ezra Levant, to which I retweeted, this guy's got the biggest set in Canada, because he came flat out and said, hey, Hunter, I'm not going to say the first word, with your $25,000 hunting bounty, it was me, my truck. Now hand over the $25K. I'll take payment in falafel and shawarma. Shawarma, I believe, is a Southern American dish, Mediterranean. I didn't know that. I could be anyway. I could be wrong. I don't know. I'm not gonna dip my hat into the ring on that one. But what I'm pointing out here is that Ezra really isn't holding back any punches when it comes to things. Now, if we look at Ezra Levant's Twitter, of course. We've got him doing stories on the hate crime. We've got several things happening, but one thing he posted earlier today, at the time of filming this video, one thing I wanted to point out is this picture of him in front of fingerprinting, and he just puts, uh-oh. Now, if we go into the comments, keep us updated, says Cat Canada. Of course, people laughing at him and saying it's funny. This is wild. Never be intimidated by these cowards. Again, showing Donald Trump. Thank you for bringing things into the light of day. You're going to get trumped, lawfare to support the narrative and silence the dissident. We're seeing that more and more in Canada right now. Again, when you look at outlets like Northern Perspective, even myself, and I can't really talk about what's happened, but certain publications of mine have had to be removed from Amazon and are being removed in the coming weeks. Again, check our previous videos for that announcement on being silenced by certain outlets. Again, I can't really go into detail about it legally, But this is Canada. This is where we're at. It's either you check all the boxes or you face scrutiny, tyranny, and oppression from those who have power. I don't know what to make of this other than to say I don't feel Ezra Levant is wrong, but let me know what you guys feel in the comments down below. Let me know what you think. Do you think Ezra is in the right? Do you think he should be avoiding jail on this one? Do you think that they have a right to even condemn or talk about his expression of opinion in this matter? Let me know your thoughts down below. If it's your first time here, I hope this video has earned your subscription. Make sure as you're clicking that button, you hit the bell for notifications and join us live each and every Friday here on the channel at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central for Friday Night Fringe, our weekly streaming talk show where we go over everything that's happened this week in politics, everything coming up in the week ahead, and some back and forth within our community. It's always great to hear what you guys have to say outside of making these videos, and I always look forward to hearing from each and every one of you every single Friday night. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.